everybody. Welcome to the very first installment of Restoration Gothic. I'm Avril, if you don't know how to pronounce that, and this is Rupert. Rupert's going to be my special helper today. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, including how to tell antiques from things that are not, the basics of the Queen Anne style. We're going to talk about some history and a bunch of furniture techniques. But today, because it's the first episode, I'm going to wind up talking about myself more than I'd like. But first, I think he wants to go. You want to go? I'm going to call you back later. You have to do that demonstration. Go ahead. See you later. All right, bye. So, for those who don't know me or haven't known me for very long, I have what I like to call 5 useless degrees. One of them is in restoration and historic preservation, and it's the one that I actually graduated summa cum laude for. My design degrees were magna. And I have an enormous amount of experience restoring all kinds of objects, furniture, you name it. In advance, I am not a natural woodworker. I actually don't enjoy working with wood all that much. I would prefer to work with metal or with stone, but woodworking is what we're going to be doing for the next 13 segments. And we're going to be talking about these two chairs and this table today. The first thing I want to talk about is to explain, actually, the reason, I'm really not a natural woodworker. This thing that's sitting on top of the table is a 40-pound bronze crucible that I personally blew out. The base is cracked in 3 pieces if I were to pick this up. The reason why I haven't cleaned the table or the area under it yet is because bronze crucibles, as they get used, form glass on the outside. This is silicate glass, and it's like flaky, and it comes off in little chunks. And so it's just easier to clean the table off and then clean the floor afterwards. But since I haven't moved this yet, I haven't cleaned anything. But this is a bronze crucible used to pour molten metal. And I definitely blew it out myself. So, in fact, you can see this piece is even loose. This is the fire brick that goes under it. So the first thing I want to talk about today in this very first installment of Restoration Gothic is if you're not familiar with furniture or how to assess its value, and you're looking at a yard sale or an estate sale or on eBay or whatever, and you want a piece of furniture to play with, I know that there's a lot of apprehension about potentially damaging something that could have value. And I'm going to give you some tricks to be able to determine in a broad way something that is valuable versus something that isn't. So let's get started. I'm going to talk about these 2 chairs today. These chairs, if you don't know where we are actually physically in my bedroom, and these 3 pieces usually live right where they are. And so we're going to talk about them today. As you can see, these 2 pieces are kind of similar. I mean, one is significantly larger than the other, but they both have a green man motif on the back of the chair. This one has a footrail with ornamentation. This one has sort of a front piece with ornamentation, and they're both kind of dark wood. They're similar. I mean, you can see why I have both of them. But one chair is really valuable, and the other one isn't. And I'm going to show you how you can tell the difference between those 2 things. So let's start here. On this chair, this green man figure is carved out of the back of the chair. It's an inherent piece of the chair itself. It's not an applied ornament. It wasn't carved earlier and then applied with glue. It's a piece that is just the piece that's forming the back. On this chair, it's exactly the opposite. All of these pieces, these green man pieces, these little motifs, and in fact, one of them is loose, this one. You can see him moving it around. These were all applied after the fact. And I will get a photo, and they're applied with nails. In fact, this one has a nail in it. It's not even glue. They're applied with very small brads, and so that's what they're doing. And I'll get a picture of this inset. That these chairs are put together in a bunch of pieces. This front piece, there's another piece that kind of makes up the center. It's a little weird. Although this chair is a little loose and could use some shoring up. You can see that. It'll wobble if I move it. it's not really badly put together. It's put together with doweling on the arms. You can see that if I lift this arm up, I can just shove it back down. And it's really not put together badly, but, and I will get an insert, hopefully it will be in the corner somewhere. If I were to tap on the seat, it's kind of sounding a little hollow. And if I were to show you the side, you could see that the seat extends past the side rails, the seat rails of the seat, and is very, very thin. And I'll get a photo of that because I know that you can't see it from this angle, and I don't really want to move it. I don't even think you could see it if I moved it. But the chair the seat is not enclosed inside the chair rail. It extends beyond the chair rail, and it's very thin. I want to say that that's 3/8 of an inch. It's not thick. This seat is exactly the opposite of that. This seat is enclosed between these 4 rails, and you cannot see the sides at all. It's completely encased within the joinery of the chair. If I were to pick this chair up, which I'm going to do, and flip it over, you can see it's not put together with screws, there are no visible nails, you have no idea how it's put together, it may as well be magic. It's got a couple of wood blocks for stability, and that's it. So, you can now kind of see like where this is going. This foot rail, you can also call it a front rail, is also carved out of the piece that it's made of. That one is an applied ornament on the front rail of the chair. And the same is true for the ornaments on the feet. There's no ornamentation on the feet of this chair, but all of the feet ornamentation on that chair is applied. This chair is made of mahogany. It has a small split that I don't remember if it ever had before or not. It could just be humidity. It's something I can fix, but it has a small split in the crest rail right there. But other than that, it's in really, really nice shape. It could use a little lemon oil. I don't remember that crack there, but okay, I can fix it. But it's definitely made of mahogany. This chair, on the other hand, has this weird kind of crackle aged finish. And I know that crackling is supposed to make things look old, and in truth, crackling does occur naturally. It occurs in shellac finishes, it can occur in varnish finishes, but it doesn't occur like that. This crackling is definitely a result of what you call a glue crackle. It's done deliberately. It's just a crafter's technique. You use a thick layer of water-based glue. You can use rabbit hide glue if you want to be like really pretentious about it. And then over the top of it, you put a layer of varnish. The varnish or shellac will cure faster than the glue underneath it. And as the glue cures, it will pull apart the layer above it. So this was done with a very thick layer of glue, because the thicker the layer of glue, the smaller the pieces and the bigger the crackle. But this chair was aged. It did not get this way naturally. This chair shows no sign of aging other than that small crack. So here you go. So I guess by now you've figured out which one is the valuable one and which one is not. This chair was built as a set piece for a theater thing on Long Island in the 90s. It has absolutely no particular value. It's made out of a combination of pine and plywood. It's absolutely of no value at all. It just happens to look nice next to that chair. I could strip it down and make it look nicer than this, but it's aging on its own and I just don't give a shit. So I'm just going to leave it the way that it is. I may eventually shore it up. It does need to be tightened. You can see that it's a little loose, but that's not a big deal. It's a pretty easy process. It'll just take me a couple hours. This chair, on the other hand, is made of mahogany, and it was made between 1917 and 1919. This is definitely German craftsmanship, but it was made in America, probably around the Chicago area, because this is where those immigrants tended to go at that time. And the green man motif is definitely something that you see in German craftsmanship from that era. This particular stylized version of the green man. So this chair, I got them both on eBay, but this is the valuable one, and I paid absolutely nothing close to what it was worth. And that one I bought, I think I paid 75 bucks for it. And if it's worth that, it'll be a miracle. But this one is worth considerably more. Now, even if you're not a furniture expert, you can go online on eBay or go to your local yard sale or whatever, and you can examine this stuff close up. Don't be afraid to get under a chair and look and see how it's made. If it's made with screws, it's not that old. If it's made with, you know, if it's made with applied ornament, it kind of depends, because a lot of late Victorian furniture is made with applied ornament. We'll get to that like way later. But generally speaking, if you're looking for like really old antique furniture, stuff from anything up to the Victorian period really, you really want to look for things that are inherently carved rather than applied, and be wary of aged finishes. Like, glue crackle has a specific look. Natural crackle that you get from shellac or from varnish, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't have that, it has like a long lightning rod kind of thing, like little lightning things with cracks like that. It doesn't look like those little square flakes that come off that have like a lot of separation between them. That's a glue thing, and it doesn't exist in reality. So this is how I knew that this chair was worth something in the pictures on eBay, and this chair really wasn't. But don't be afraid, like when you're looking at furniture, to look at it critically and see about the joinery. Make sure that it's not put together with screws. If it has nails, check the size of them. Make sure that the nails have been sunk properly, that they're an appropriate size, that they don't look too modern, stuff like that. If you're looking for a chair that is genuinely valuable, make sure that it hasn't been restored by anyone other than a professional, because the minute that you remove the finish, you remove the value. So you have to be careful, like with genuine antiques, about that finish. Have it appraised by somebody who knows what they're looking at before you attack it with a stripper, which sounds very wrong. So all of this to say that this table that I'm going to be working on for the next little while has no value at all, and I don't give the single slightest shit about it. So what is this table, and what am I going to be doing with it? This table is a reproduction of what you would call a Boston Queen Anne double leaf drop table. Double drop leaf table. How do I know that it's not an original? Well, there's a lot of ways. But let's start with the fact that it's put together with screws. I'm not going to flip it over. You can trust me, there are screws under there. But even if I didn't know that there were screws under there, there's a lot of other telltale signs. But in order to understand that, we're going to talk about what the Queen Anne style is and how you know that it's a Queen Anne style. So the Queen Anne style started in Europe right after the coronation of Queen Anne in 1714.
Wait, what? What did I just say? No. Queen Anne was coronated in 1702, and she died in 1714. Oops, back to the show.
You start seeing that style of furniture in Europe, starting in England in about 1715, and it goes in Europe until about 1750. At that time, there was no such thing as the United States. We were still colonies of England, and so our furniture styles tended to drag behind the European styles by about 10 years. Because we didn't have email or airplanes or a quick way of getting fashion from one place to another. It took longer for things to take hold here. But the other thing that's unique to American furniture, especially American furniture of that period, is that European furniture tends to have significantly more ornamentation than American furniture. American furniture in that era was made predominantly in the Northeast and the Atlantic colonies. So places like Boston, Rhode Island, New York, and Pennsylvania. Those are like the big places that you would see furniture manufacturing. And in those areas there were there was an enormous influence, particularly in the New England states, of our Puritan ancestors. They was not far removed by any stretch of the imagination from those original religious lunatics that founded that part of the country. And they didn't really like ornamentation. It was against their religious beliefs. They thought that it was decadent, and so they tended to keep the ornamentation of their furniture to a minimum. The most that you will see really in American furniture of this era, and there's no ornamentation on this piece, but you'll see there's two designs that are common. One of them is a shell, like a clamshell, and the other one is like a scroll, a piece of scroll work. The clamshell is more popular, and you would generally see it on the legs, like here, in this area that we would call the knee. We're going to get to that in a minute. Or if this were not a drop leaf, like if this were a regular table, you would see it in the center on the front rail. But in Europe, you would see significantly more bits of ornamentation as you went along. But this particular table is not only a reproduction, it's a bad one. And it's specifically designed to be a reproduction of the Boston style. I'm going to show you how I know that. By hopefully not knocking everything over. Okay. Gently. Okay. So, one more. There we go. All right. So, if you look down here underneath the top of the table, there's this shape here. And what this is supposed to be is what they call a scallop shape. And this is, I don't know what this is. This is like, have you ever watched Nailed It on Netflix? This is the Nailed It version of a Boston double drop leaf table. There's a space. This is two separate pieces, and there's this weird gap that I can fit my finger into here. This space shouldn't be here. If this were like a real period table, there would be no space. This would be one piece, and it would have a very delicate curve with a point here, and then it would come down exactly the same way on the opposite side. So that's another way that I know that this is like not even a good reproduction. But more importantly, in the Boston style, the most important thing in the Queen Anne style in general, like the biggest addition to the design encyclopedia of Queen Anne style, is something that's called the cabriole leg. You can also call it a Queen Anne leg. Everyone will know what you're talking about, but the technical name is the cabriole leg. And I'm sure that you've seen legs like this on furniture before. It's a really, really common thing that we have all seen in antiques our entire lives. The leg itself has a few parts. This is called the knee, and this is called the ankle, and this is called, specifically in this shape, called a pad foot. And this particular example is really awful, particularly of a Boston style. In Boston, for whatever reason, they preferred really straight legs. And they were designed to be really graceful and thin at the ankles, like an antelope. And I'm going to show, as a visual, I found an image, a perfect image online of an original period piece that I'm going to put up. I don't know what corner it's going to be in yet, but whatever, it should appear right about now. That will show you what it's supposed to look like. And in that image, you can see that perfect scallop shape, very long, straight legs. The interior is perfectly flat, with very, very narrow ankles, and a very defined pad foot that sticks out with a little disc at the bottom that is no bigger than about a quarter inch. This is like the chunky girl with Kankel's version of that. This thigh, this knee here, this calf, I guess, of the leg is huge. The proportions are really bizarre. This is like, it's got a really chunky knee and big calf, and even though it's kind of straight here, like it was trying to follow the Boston style, it doesn't have delicate angles. And the biggest disaster is this foot, which is where I need to go get Rupert, who's laying on the bed. Rupert, it is time for your close-up. Come here, bud. Okay, little one. So here's Rupert. And Rupert, sit, has the exact number of toes he should have, which is why I'm not using his brother, and he has perfect little socks. So you can see that when he stands, he has perfect pad feet. His feet come out at a really? His feet come out into perfect little pads. And that's what these are supposed to be like. I don't know what kind of clunky shit this is sitting on, but it's not supposed to look like that. These are really poorly defined feet with some bizarro thing going on at the bottom. I don't know what that is. These legs were cut correctly. They were measured properly. But then they were created like I don't even know what. So instead of having this long thing where the foot probably should have ended like here, it's all really chunky and fat. It's like somebody who was like a student made the table rather than somebody who was a craftsman. The other way that I know that this is a reproduction, by the way, is that in this period, the leaves were being held up by what's called a gate leg, which would be like a fifth leg that would come out and hold up this end of the table, like that. It would swing outwards, an additional piece. These don't have that. These are held up with like a little wooden slide that comes out on the bottom and just holds the table up, but it's not like an extra leg piece. So the way that this table is being held up is not period at all. So all of these things lead me to the rather obvious conclusion that not only is this a reproduction, it's a really bad one. And as such, I've always thought this table was ugly as shit, all right? I inherited it from a roommate who left it here, and I don't give a single damn about it. I could restore it and make it look like it was, first made and whatever. I'm not going to, because it's not going to solve any of the inherent problems of this table. It's not going to make the legs look better. It's not going to change this goofy thing in the middle. It's just going to make it look newer. Finally, this table is not made from the wood that would have been used at that time. At the time, the most common wood in Boston for furniture was walnut. Walnut or cherry. You get one or the other. The one that in the example, that inset example, is a cherry piece. You can see it's got a beautiful sort of rich, deep red color. Walnut, as a natural wood, has a natural dark shade. When you stain walnut, you get like a dark brown out of it. It's like even darker than that mahogany. It's less red. You don't really get this color out of walnut. Like it's just not. This is what I'm almost positive is white oak. It's at least hardwood, but it's white oak, and so this isn't even the right kind of wood for a table that is supposed to be replicating that period. So there's really no reason to give a shit about what I do with it. It's it's got this scorch mark from a candle and whatever. And so what I'm planning on doing it is I'm going to take it apart and clean it. I'm going to be painting it, leafing it, and then doing some detail paint. In between, I'm going to show you some sanding techniques, tack techniques, I'm going to teach you why we don't use polyurethane on antique furniture, ever. I'll teach you about the alternatives to that. And in general, I'm going to turn this into a hot Gothic mess. Because I live in the house that Goth built. So, there you go. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And along the way, I'm going to be teaching you about the history of painted furniture, both in the world, starting with Egypt, and the history of painted furniture in America. And I will be teaching you techniques on what the difference is between simple leafing and gilding, and the best ways to do decorative paint techniques for stuff like this, decorative sanding techniques. It's going to be a lot. So I hope that you enjoyed this very first episode of Restoration Gothic. We will be visited again by Rupert, and stay tuned for the bloopers afterwards. There are so many, because this is not the first time I filmed this. So if you have any questions, please leave them in comments. If you know anybody that you think would enjoy learning about this or whatever, tell them about this. $5 a month gets you all of the information about this. And if you want to go for a higher tier, I won't stop you. You get all kinds of goodies, especially beautiful free goodies. So yeah, thanks so much, and let me know what you think about this first installment of Restoration Gothic. Bronx out. So, that shaking, that is Rupert. Rupert, don't knock the camera over, honey. Rupert, Rupert, Rupert. Rupert, go do something else. Rupert, Rupert. Here comes Rerun. Rerun, Rerun, Rerun. Rerun is right behind the camera, and if he knocks it over, it's going to be bad. Rerun. Buddy. Hey. Can you do something else? Come on. Go down. Thank you. Okay. He's gonna... Will you do something else, please? Oh my god. This is not the time. Come on, buddy. Come on. Not now. So... And... So I don't want to clean anything under the table until I actually get this thing off the table so that I can clean the tabletop and then I can clean on the floor. So that's why I haven't done it yet. And that scratching noise you hear is Rerun. Rerun, Rerun. Your brother is supposed to be the one that involves himself, not you. You want to say hello? You don't know what you're doing. Okay. And if you don't know anything about furniture, that's a big task. Like, you could be afraid of doing something crazy to a piece of furniture because it might actually be valuable. You're really going to get involved. Ladies and gentlemen, Rerun. But Rerun and I guess, are going to show you some techniques to tell you the difference between valuable furniture and garbage. So right now, I'm going to get up. He's going to get up too. And we're going to take a look at these two chairs. And I'm going to teach you right now. I have this cold and I keep rubbing my nose. I swear that I'm not high. I'm just like, I've got like this cold. So, and where the hell is he? Rupert! Come here. Rupert! Oobly! Really? I'm going to go get Rupert. I'll be right back. There he is. Hi, it is time for your close-up. Okay. This is Rupert. Rupert is my good example because he has the right number of toes and he has perfect little socks. So he's going to show you about pad feet. Come here, you. Okay. So Rupert, obviously, has feet, and when he stands up, his feet have perfect little pads that you can see, just like that. Can you sit like a normal cat? No, you're not going to do that? You're going to just be a pain in the ass? Okay. And when you have furniture like that, normally the pad feet have a very definitive curve. Hey, buddy. A very definitive... Thanks, Rerun. Let's try that again. Should I do a blooper? I think I need a blooper.